Outrage is followed by deadly violence in the smoke-filled streets of Los Angeles, California. The National Guard has been called out to try to restore order. The police and fire departments at one point reported they were overwhelmed.
He is bleeding unconscious in the street.
That man is now dead. The violence began last night. It's been going on throughout the day in Southern California, and there has been demonstrations elsewhere. People frustrated by a courtroom verdict have taken their anger into the streets. That was really difficult for us. The rioting broke out just a few hours after the verdict in Simi Valley. Gangs attacked people driving through south central Los Angeles. One truck driver was helpless as he was dragged from his cab and beaten. He's in critical condition. Almost 2,000 fires were set, hundreds of stores looted.
I'll tell you quite frankly, I did not expect it to break out that quickly. I've been involved in this is not the first riot I've been involved in. I was deeply involved in the 1965 riots, the 66 and 67, and I've watched them in their development. And this one, quite frankly, went much faster.
Mayor Tom Bradley has declared a dusk-to-dawn curfew in the entire city, and the National Guard has now been called in. But last night, police and firefighters were badly outnumbered. Officers in riot gear tried desperately to keep the crowds away from Los Angeles Police Headquarters. Rioters did manage to destroy a guard shack.
This is a guard shack.
Firefighters were attacked as well. Bullets hit this truck.
You see? Look at this,
Yeah, I got him right at me. And then they got me with this bottle here.
Morning came, and the fires still burned in south central Los Angeles. The looting continued as well. Young men carried cartons of sneakers out of a sporting goods store. A convenience store was reduced to a pile of trash. The owners had to pick up a gun in order to scare the looters away.
I shot 8 times, everybody moved.
An entire strip mall burned to the ground, just a block away from the campus of USC. Some people tried to save their homes by using garden hoses.
It's an idiotic, very idiotic thing to burn up your own neighborhood.
And it's making it hard for us, like Boys Market and all those places, you know. Where we gonna go now to get food and stuff? It's just sad, that's all I can say.
Officials said that at one point earlier in the day today, fire calls were coming in at the rate of 3 a minute.
Now for the situation as it stands right now, let's go out to Los Angeles and Fox News reporter Bill Ritter. How are things at this hour, Bill?
The only way to describe the situation out here, total anarchy, absolute total anarchy. There is breaking news right now, and Greg, if we can just pan right past me, there is what appears to be either a store or a house on fire. You can see flames licking into the sky as black smokes, plumes of black smoke rise up into the air. Fire engines are leaving this command post where we have set ourselves up. The city is ringed by a ring of fire. We have a producer in the way right here of a highway patrol. There's excuse me for 1 second, highway patrol trying to squeeze by. Greg, if you can come back to me, I want to swing this camera around and show you the action here at the police command center where approximately 2,000 police are gathered here. And this is where in south central Los Angeles they dispatch the police and firefighters who risk their lives every day now to go out into the community and trying to restore order. Right now they're not doing, frankly, a very good job of it. It is chaos. Look over here if we could, Greg. Another huge plume of smoke just a couple blocks away. The otherwise very clear crystal blue sky here looks like a nuclear holocaust with gray, black soot and smoke.
Americans to approach this situation with calm, with tolerance, and with a respect for the rights of all individuals under the Constitution. We are concerned about any question of excessive police violence, and we are equally concerned about excessive public violence. The murder and destruction in the streets of Los Angeles last night and today must be stopped.
Minutes later, Attorney General Barr held a news conference to say since the state trial is now over, the Justice Department will accelerate its civil rights investigation.
The church seemed to be taking hold on the streets of New York.
but it did not prevent some merchants and residents of some areas of the city from taking precautions just in case.
Not always the case. The vivid pictures from New York City's Tompkins Square riots in the summer of '88 show how New York City police got out of hand in trying to control that situation. And there are plenty of other civil disturbances where police tactics were criticized. Following the riots of the 1960s, including the ones in Watts, Los Angeles, a presidential commission released its report recommending how police should respond to riots.
What they found was that the effective police tactic is to respond immediately to incidents at the very beginning and to take very immediate and very effective action to handle incidents while they're small. Of course, it's important to handle those incidents in a way that does not exacerbate the situation.
Already, there's criticism being leveled against the Los Angeles Police Department for a delayed response last night. From Manhattan, this is Jeff Weiser, Fox 5 News.
A lot of events in L.A. are on hold at this hour until things cool down.
You know that one of the oldest and usually truest cliches is that seeing is believing. Cameras have become our extended eyes. When we see courageous students in Beijing's Tiananmen Square stand in front of tanks or see the Berlin Wall fall, we are there too. The use of moving pictures to make a case is now virtually expected. Video has changed all of us, often changed our thinking and changed the world because seeing is believing. America started to believe what the camera sees during the civil rights struggle. For those who doubted newspaper accounts of white Southern hostility for and brutality of blacks, seeing was believing. It left an after image on the mind and forced America to scream, "Turn off the violence. You can't treat people that way." And video changed the way we looked at the Vietnam War. After years of dining with the gore of battle, we asked ourselves if saving that piece of humid jungle from communism was worth 55,000 American lives. Eventually, we answered no, but only after seeing and believing. Some people believe that this scene from a home video proved that Robert Chambers was cold and cruel enough to be a murderer. It was taped after he had been charged with the strangulation death of Jennifer Levin. Some people believe that suspects in the Central Park jogger case were guilty because they admitted it to police on videotape. Because seeing is believing, police now use video to convict DWI suspects.
You want to turn around, go back now, and you want to do it again?
But even with the visual aids, some choose not to believe. Despite the vivid video horror of the Holocaust, some say it never happened or argue that it was less than purported. But most know that seeing is believing. And now there's the world-famous Rodney King video, 56 blows from Los Angeles police nightsticks. But this time, throw out the video verification rule, because here we learn that seeing is not always believing.
I think what you have to do is you have to take the videotape and look at the job of what we've tried to get the jury to understand the duties of a police officer encompass, and then attach that philosophy to what you see trying to take Mr. King into custody.
In fact, the whole Rodney King video was never played for the jury, but it's hard to believe that they had never seen it. The jury was shown a frame-by-frame series of still photos from the video and given reasons for why King brought the beating upon himself.
Fires of anger lit in Los Angeles, with the heat felt in Washington.
Lootings, beatings, and random violence against innocent victims must be condemned.
Today, signs of spreading unrest. Tonight, in the nation's second largest city, a curfew in a wounded community, and a larger examination of what is tearing it apart.
The violence was on the rise. Firefighters, often the targets of violence themselves, could not keep up with the arson fires.
Prophet, you bring up the rear and make sure we got 5 vehicles.
National Guard troops were deployed in the troubled areas to reinforce the police. But even all that law enforcement didn't stop the looting, or the vigilante attempts to stop the looting. These Korean shop owners defended their property with bullets. More than 100 Korean businesses have been looted or burned since last night.
We have a lot of shotguns in here and some handguns, but we have to use them. because I mean we have to defend our lives, we have to defend our property. You know, people out there watching, you know, please just don't sit there and enjoy this great exhibition.
It's not an entertainment, you know, it's not a Hollywood action shot.
In anticipation of more trouble, high-rise office buildings downtown were evacuated as commuters packed the roads in an effort to get home early. Grocery stores were also packed as residents sought to stockpile goods. All schools are closed and have canceled weekend activities. Shopping over the city closed down out of fear that the violence and looting would spread. Most of the trouble is taking place within a 105-square-mile area of south-central L.A., but there are reports now of looting in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, and several locations in the San Fernando Valley. In South Central, the looting has become brazen. There seems little connection to outrage over the King verdict. Most of the looters, like these seen breaking into a Sears store, seem to be making the most of a chaotic situation to grab some goods. In fact, one looter arrived at this location in a yellow cab. At a nearby grocery store, a local reporter confronted some of the thieves.
Why did you do this?
I don't know, because it's free.
Because it's free?
Yeah.
Don't you know it's wrong?
Nah.
You don't care?
I don't care.
United States, how come they let that happen to the place? Why didn't they guard? Y'all running out of there with the food. I got to do some shopping. I don't have any food in the house.
At dusk, all bus and rail service was canceled. Air traffic into Los Angeles International Airport has been backed up and a number of planes have been diverted. And the smaller Santa Monica Airport has been closed because of smoke from a major fire in West Los Angeles. Mayor Tom Bradley says it is imperative that the violence be contained.
To discourage it from leapfrogging into other cities across the nation.
There can be no excusing excessive force by a police officer. There can be no excusing arson, theft, or deadly assault by a citizen.
In a day of sad news, a particularly sad item this evening. The truck driver who was pulled from his truck yesterday and beaten has died from his injuries.
Served in the Rodney King case, and just like justice is not being served now.
The white folks don't care as long as we burn it down with our backyard. You see what I'm saying? They sitting back at their house looking at you and say, look at them damn Negroes. Look at them. Look at them. They are fools. Look at them. Just what they perceive of us is what we're doing right here, right now.
I'm not saying it's right, but that's just the way it is. I mean, the law, it's not fair, but it's the law, right?
It's law.
It's the law. It's bullshit. The white man structured world. It's unfair to the black man.
King fought for peace, but you don't get nothing by just talking. I believe in Malcolm X way. I don't believe in turning the cheek. We done turned the cheek for far too long. Now it's time for retaliation.
This is not going to stop just for one day, man. You know, they're going to have to declare martial law here. They're going to have to bring out the National Guard, you know? We're outraged, man. We're sick of this shit, man. We're sick of this, man.
Now maybe 4 or 5 miles north of that area, west into what is called the Los Feliz area, which is close to where we are, east rather, and west over to La Cienega, which borders on Beverly Hills. And in fact, Beverly Hills Fire Departments and Beverly Hills Police have been responding to incidents on the west side. It's gone into the heart of Hollywood, up on Hollywood Boulevard on Sunset tonight. I saw looting. I saw fires burning somewhat controlled in the heart of Hollywood. Right next to the landmark Fredericks of Hollywood store, there was a building fully engaged in flames. There are crowds of people out there, thousands of people wandering around. There is uncontrolled looting. Fire department just cannot keep up with it. We encountered gunfire and kind of a holiday atmosphere among the people. People walking down the streets with mattresses on their back, with televisions, taking shoes, in full view of the few police officers who are there. Now, I know that the National Guard has been called out. I did not see a National Guardsman all evening. If they called out 600, 700, 800 of them, it wouldn't be anything near enough to control the crowds of people who are out there.
Straight down. Peace.
Violence spread from south central Los Angeles to Hollywood and other areas overnight. The Los Angeles Fire Department says 10 structure fires are still burning after more than 36 hours of rioting. In all, the department says about 1,755 fires have been set since Wednesday evening. The death toll from the violence has now been revised to 29, with more than 1,200 injuries. The Sheriff's Department is reporting approximately 3,000 arrests. Some merchants are not trusting police to protect their property. This man on the rooftop there is believed to be a store owner shooting at looters below. The tape was shot near West Hollywood. The city of Atlanta was under a curfew overnight after violence spread into the downtown area yesterday afternoon. A crowd overturned a police car during the disturbances. One man was seriously injured during an attack elsewhere. Several other people were roughed up as gangs of young black youths vandalized businesses. In Cleveland, a man who drove by a rally waving a flag with a swastika on it was arrested. Some of the up to 150 people at the rally chased the man's vehicle. President Bush is scheduled to meet with black community leaders in about an hour. Presidential Press Secretary Marlin Fitzwater describes the meeting as a listening session. Among those attending are Southern Christian Leadership Conference leader Joseph Lowry and NAACP Director Benjamin Hooks.
The conflict in the United States is being watched all around the world. French President François Mitterrand indicated to a French radio station today that he blames the rioting on the U.S. social and economic system, which he believes helps foster divisions in the society. Mr. Mitterrand said it's first and foremost a racial conflict, and racial conflict is always linked to social factors. It's at the same time a racial as well as social conflict.
Looting and arson have spread from south central Los Angeles to other parts of the city and into some suburbs. Some are saying the damage will be over $200 million. Yesterday, people raided stores, taking anything they could get their hands on. Some store owners took matters into their own hands and took up arms to protect their property. In West Hollywood, one man fired a rifle from the roof of a store, trying to keep the rioters at bay. Across the U.S., people have reacted to the King verdict with violence. Police in Seattle say they now have that situation under control, but last night a crowd of about 140 young people roved the streets, looting and flipping cars. In Las Vegas last night, 2 police stations were firebombed and sporadic shooting was reported on that city's west side. Mark Leff reports on the reaction in some other U.S. cities.
Do yourself a favor, get the hell off the street.
A day after the verdict in Simi Valley, the violence had spread well beyond Los Angeles. The mayor of San Francisco, who was once the city's police chief, ordered an overnight curfew and proclaimed a state of emergency after hundreds of people ran through downtown streets, breaking hotel and shop windows and looting stores.
I do not want to see fires or arson start to occur. I do not want to see additional looting take place. This is the best way to immediately handle a situation and to bring it under control.
The violence in San Francisco followed a day of mostly peaceful demonstrations on several college campuses in the Bay Area. One protest march blocked traffic on the Bay Bridge linking San Francisco and Oakland.
Ain't gonna let nobody hurt.
In Atlanta, a similar pattern. There was a noon prayer rally at the tomb of civil rights leader Martin Luther King, Jr.
So not only are we here today to stop the killing in Los Angeles and stop the killing in the suites, we must stop the killing in our own community.
But some of the people at that rally then joined others who attacked people and businesses in downtown Atlanta. There, too, there were hundreds of arrests. There, too, the mayor ordered an overnight curfew. Elsewhere, after the acquittal of the 4 Los Angeles police officers, less violence, but plenty of anger.